and that starts the recording. Okay, so then what you'll see on the screen when you look at these videos is everything that happens on the screen here with my voice over top of it. And even if I'm answering questions, you'll have that as well. Anyway, here's the slideshow. The title of the first lesson. Here's my controller. There it is. Oh, and I'm getting an Apple Watch too, so when you ask questions in class, I'll be a lot more responsive. That's ready if you send me a question. Okay, reviewing the basics. Part 1, powers. That's your title that you should put up in the top. I encourage you also to put the date, but you know, I guess some elementary teachers are really uptight about how you write the date. You had to write a certain way. You could just write September 14th at the top. And why that's so good is if you have your notes out or you're moving them around and looking them over and you have to try and put them back together, the date helps you put things back in the right order again. So, first title, Reviewing the Basics, Part 1, Powers. I want you to treat me like you treat your iPad in class as well. If I go too fast and skip ahead on a slide and you haven't got something copied down, you can just reach up and swipe the air like this. And I'll go, oh yeah, and I'll swipe it back. I'll get sidetracked and talk about something else for a minute while you're copying that screen down. No problem. Never, ever in my class will I suddenly go, come on, why didn't you have that copied down? Pay attention. That is not the way I act at all. I'll totally just move it back for you. Question? Yeah, I got you covered here. I'm even doing a sales pitch for these mechanical pencils. Try that thing out. That's a 0.9, folks. That's how nerdy I am. I get excited about these type of things. A 0.9 millimeter mechanical pencil. If you haven't tried a 0.9 before, you should check it out. Notice how weird the video is going to be if you watch it online. You have to listen to all this nonsense going on. But at least you'll have the lesson. Yeah, it'll be up there. You got the swipe thing ready? As soon as I go a slide too far, you just reach up, swipe through the air, and when I notice, I'll put it back to the previous slide. You can also raise your hand and say, Mr. Todd, can you go back? Yeah, no problem. What is a power? A power, please write down this sentence. A power is a mathematical expression that represents repeated multiplication. Why is repeated multiplication so important? Well, I used the COVID example. The case rate at one point might have been raising at 1% a day, and most people would think that's no big deal. But if you raise by 1% a day for 30 straight days, things get out of hand in a hurry. If you repeatedly multiply by the same percentage, the change gets huge. We call it exponential change. Maybe you've heard that word before. But for now, all you're responsible for is knowing that a power is an expression that represents repeated multiplication. Here are the parts of a power. Actually, every math person I know uses the word power wrong. And it's okay. We just sort of accept that we use it wrong. But I'm going to explain it properly here so you understand what the technical terms are in terms of power. You've seen this before. 2 with a little 5 up here. This isn't 2 times 5. This isn't 25. This is 2 with an exponent of 5. And we're going to talk about what that means in just a second. But these two parts each have their own separate name. Does anyone know what we give this? Not 2. Well, I got to switch over one thing too in these PowerPoints. If I switch this over to pointer, laser pointer. Yeah, okay, so this part right here. I know it's a number 2, but what's it called? That's the base. Yeah, we call that the base. And then this part here, the 5, what's that part called? The exponent. And here's the mistake people make, and it's not a big deal, this mistake, because everybody I know does it. They call this the power. They say the 5 is the power. And that's not technically correct. Technically, that whole thing is called a power. When something has an exponent, the number's called a power. It has a base, and it has an exponent. But see, people say it all the time. Even math teachers will say 2 to the power of 5. It's not technically correct. 2 to the exponent 5. This whole thing is the power. I don't want to make a big deal about that. I don't want you to think that really matters all that much because people use it wrong all the time. That whole thing is the power. Now, if this is really simple to you, I got to tell you, by the end of chapter 2, this gets right out of hand. Everything we have to do with exponents that's coming, it gets right crazy. So within, where will be chapter 2? We won't get to we'll almost be done chapter 1 this week. By the second week with me, you'll be into chapter 2. By the end of that week, if you think that math is so easy and everything like that, wait till the end of that week. Things are going to go right haywire by the end of the second week with me, which is a long time away, right? Will that even be October by the time you're back with me? Yeah, pretty much. 28th, 29th, 30th, October 1st and October 2nd is when you come back to me. Okay, some examples. 3 to the exponent 4. Well, we're really going to focus for at least a few days on what 3 to the exponent 4 means, not just what its value is. When you have a 3 and a 4 up there in the superscript like that, what do we mean? What's that telling you to do? Times it by 3 4 times. So, for today's homework, not long term, if you're like, oh, I know how to do these, please don't make me write them out. Just today, okay? Just for this lesson, for the homework that's with this lesson, write them out. 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. And what is 3 times 3 times 3 times 3? $81. Okay, now, I didn't see him reach for his calculator. Maybe he did when I wasn't looking, but I didn't see him reach for his calculator. He did that in his head. One of the things I want to encourage you to do in AP Math is get better at mental math. Notice I didn't say good. Some people never get to the point where they're really good at mental math. I do want you to get better. So for simple stuff like this, I want you to take a shot in your head whenever you can. 3 times 3 times. Can I do that in my head? And let's get sidetracked for a minute. Little AP moment here. How did you do that in your head? What went through your mind? Really trying to slow the thinking down to figure out what did you do to end up with 81? Did you use a calculator or did you do it in your head? Did in your head. What did you do? You did 3 times 3, which is 9. Good. He went right after it. Listen to what he did. He went 9 times 3, which is 27. Oh, yeah, he went right after it, folks. He actually went after 27 times 3 and did this in his head. Now, I've seen some nonsense on Facebook about math. This happens all the time. Maybe you've seen something like this, where they're teaching new ways to do math, and people are freaking out. Why can't they just do the old way, blah, 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 blah. And nobody knows what they're talking about. Doing this in your head is not that bad, actually. If you try and use the algorithm for multiplying 3 times 27, where you go 3 times 7 is 21, put the 1 here, and put the 2 up there, 3 times 2 is 6, and that 2 is 8. You know, that's fine. That's a perfectly good procedure. I have no problem with that procedure. But that doesn't help you a whole lot for mental math. That's difficult to do mental math with. And it's not what he said. What he said is he immediately said something about 3 times 20. So in his head he went, well, 3 times 20 is 60. Then something like this, 3 times 7 is 21, and he was able to add those two things in your head. It's the same really, but it's a different way of thinking that gives you a chance to do it mentally in your head. Sometimes mental math isn't about how smart you are. It's really about if you know how to think about it to be able to do it in your head. Did anyone do this in their head a different way? There's another way to go at it that, I don't know if it's better, but it's certainly different. Take a look at this. What's 3 times 3? 9. What's 3 times 3? And 9 times 9 is 81. Multiplication is a very friendly operation. You can do them whichever way around you want. Sort of like addition. You can add things together and regroup them. I think that's the fancy term they're using in elementary school now, where you can regroup things and add them the way you want. And you can do the same thing when it's all multiplication. It's only when there's multiplication or addition in the same question that things get messy. With BEDMAS, just to let you know. When it's all multiplication, you can do it however you want. One more. 4 to the exponent 3. And again, I encourage you to write it out. In this lesson, one more time, write out what 4 to the exponent 3 is. Think about it in your head. Test yourself right now. Do I know what I would write to expand this out? Is the fancy word for it. What would you write for 4 to the exponent 3? Let me tell you something about me and questions. I'm going to hesitate and have that awkward silence for a minute. And in my brain, I make eye contact with people and encourage them to answer. At the same time, I won't call on you. You could be, do teachers do this to you in elementary? Where teachers will do this to you in secondary. You're busy talking to a friend or playing on your phone, so the teacher picks that moment to call on you and center you out. I will not do that. I will not do that. I'll only call on people who put their hands up. If we use the same 3 people all the time, that's fine. So my eye contact is just encouraging you, saying, hey, give her a shot. Because I'm really good at taking your answer and modifying it and helping you through. It will not happen that you'll answer and I'll go, that was stupid. It's more likely I'll go, oh, I see what you were thinking there. Well, what about this? And I'll just question you through it till you do get the right answer. Okay? So it's a working together thing that we'll do. And those long silences are just to wait and encourage other people to answer if they want. Okay, back to here. 4 to the exponent 3, what does that mean? What do I write to expand that out? 4 times 4 times 4. Very good. Which I encourage you. You could just type that in your calculator. 4 times 4 times 4 and get the answer. But I encourage you to try these in your head. Just get those mental muscles going again. 4 times 4 times 4. What is it? 64. How did you do 4 times 4 times 4 in your... Yeah, 2-digit times 1-digit multiplication. I don't know how good at mental math people can get, but 2-digit times 1-digit, there's a nice way to handle this. You just, in the case of 16 times 4, forget the algorithm. You just go, okay, well, 4 times 10 is 40. 4 times 6 is 24. That's how people who are doing single times double in their head handle it. Double times double, well, that's a whole new ball game. Double times double takes some really thinking, and I'll get to that in this course. Well, this week, I'll talk about double times double. What single times double sort of requires, though, is that you've got your up to 9 times 9 times tables memorized. If you don't, like if I say 6 times 8, and you don't immediately know the answer, I think that's something you could afford to work on. There's so many great apps now. Just get an app on your phone while you're sitting on the bus, waiting for your mom to pick you up, or whatever you have dead time. Just get that 9 times 9 going. I don't care about 11s. I don't care about 12s. If we can get up to 9 times 9 taken care of, where it's mostly like this, it'll really help you when you're doing your homework and so on. It'll just give you that little bit of speed you need. Okay, I just want to talk about your calculator, though. Maybe you don't have your calculator in front of you. But I want to show you on some generic calculator I've got here. What's happening here? Escape? Yes? Okay. I've got one on the screen, and I want to show you what they're capable of. I don't want to get too carried away with this, because your calculator might not exactly have the same sequence of keys as mine. So you may have to press something slightly different, but this is what a good calculator should be able to do, no problem at all. This happens to be a Sharp calculator I bring up on the screen. And the last one was 4 to the power of 3. So you could go 4 times 4 times 4 and get the answer of 64. That's fine. But the calculator is designed to do exponents better than that. There'll be an exponent key on your calculator. Mine has a little, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you can see on my screen, because it really depends on your calculator, what you're going to use. The buttons for exponent can be like y to the exponent x, or it can be like an x to the exponent y. But you also out there will see a little top of a house thing. It's called a tilde. And on some calculators it has a little tilde thing there. I'm going to make a list of those over here. These are the buttons you're looking for exponents. Y to the x, x to the y, and a little tilde. It's almost always one of those 3 buttons that you use. And then so you can go 4, hit your exponent button, and this is the calculator I was talking about on the screen there. See how it does a little exponent? It actually puts it up there, and it actually looks like an exponent up there. So nice. Just a little bit nicer calculator for doing math in high school. 64. Okay, so there's a way to get your calculator to do those exponents. So get to know your calculator a little bit and exactly what it does. Where was I? Somewhere about here. Okay? That's the end of my lesson on exponents. What I want to tell you, though, is there's a quiz coming up. Well, I'll call it a pre-quiz. Tomorrow, no, you're off tomorrow, right? Wednesday, we'll have a pre-quiz. Now, when I say pre-quiz, what I mean is I don't care about the results in this quiz at all. I'll put it in your mark, or I won't put it in your mark, or you can rewrite it another time or whatever. I don't care. It's just me checking in to see where we're at. On the pre-quiz, I ask you to show the exponent, then, or sorry, show the expansion. Oh, where's my laser pointer? Oh, it's not a laser pointer anymore. Show the expansion, 4 times 4 times 4, then show the answer. Just those 2 steps. I'll be looking for those 2 steps for 2 marks. Okay? So for today, when doing this homework, write them out when they ask you to. Okay? Then to get the final answer, you can multiply it. You can do it in your head and check it with your calculator, or use the exponent button in your calculator. You've got all those choices. So 2 lines there. Okay? Pre-quiz Wednesday on exponents coming up. And some other stuff, whatever else we do today. You try. Here's your first set of homework. Page 492, number 1 in the A1 section. And to model what I intend to do in most days is to teach a lesson like this, then stop. Give you some time to work, and this shouldn't take you long at all. As soon as we finish this, we'll take our break. Then I'll come back and teach again. And you might not quite be done that homework, but hopefully, if you use the time in class that I give you, you'll have some of your homework done before the night comes. Now, 492, number 1 in the A1 section. If you look in the back, it's in the appendix, unless you've had your appendix removed. Okay. That's sort of a joke, but also, it could be that the page has fallen out. And we'll get you a replacement textbook, because I tell you, these textbooks are not good quality. Take a moment and do 492, number 1 in the A1 section. See, on 492, there's an A1 and an A2. Do A1, number 1. That should not take you long at all. As soon as you finish that, you can chill, and at 10:20 or so, we'll take our 5-minute break. Question? I predicted it, didn't I? I'll take your textbook, and I'll get you a new one, okay? What's weird is yours looks good, doesn't it? Like yours is in fancy shape, but it's missing a page. Before I give it to you, I'll check that it's good.